Thanks, Jerry, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to talk to you today about the Azure Minerals story. 2021 was a really good year for us. We've got a nickel sulfide project called Andover, and we've got a gold project called Barton. The results have been absolutely outstanding, and going forward we see that 2022 is going to be an absolutely cracking year for us. Disclaimer and statements can be seen on our website. And moving along, it's important that we acknowledge the traditional owners of the two projects upon which we operate. We have really good, strong relationships with both of those groups, and I do thank them for the very cooperative relationship that we've been able to develop and maintain going forward. So things are very good for us on that particular front. Azure has also implemented a sustainability plan, and the ESG component of that is well underway, and we acknowledge that that has to be a very strong component of the way that we operate going forward, and it's important that we make sure that as a company we fulfil all the obligations that come with operating in this industry. Corporately, we've got 310 million shares on issue, market share price of about 40 cents at the moment, so about $124 million market cap. At the start of this current quarter, we had $19 million in the bank, so the company's in a very secure position financially. The major shareholders are the two biggest ones, Deutsche Balaton, who are a listed German investment fund, which are on the board of quite a few West Australian producing companies and explorers as well. Mark Creasy and his group with 16%, very important backer. And there's a number of other smaller holders there, but no less influential as well. The two main projects we've got are the Andover Nickel and Copper Project, which is located in the West Pilbara region of Western Australia, and the Barton Gold Project, which is located just to the south of Leonora. Andover is the one that we've been working on the most, and so that's the one that we'll focus this presentation on principally, but we will talk a little bit about the Barton project towards the end. So Andover is a nickel copper sulfide project. It's a joint venture between Azure and the Creasy Group. Azure owns 60%. And the Creasy Group own 40%. That 40% is free carried through to the decision to mine, after which there will be a pro rata contribution to expenses going forward. And it's in the intention of Azure and the Creasy Group to be able to take Andover right the way through the exploration, the assessment and the development and into operations for this project. So Andover ticks the boxes in terms of clean and green energy metals. So we've got nickel, we've got copper and we've got cobalt. And the metals prices for those particular commodities are very strong and are continuing to rise, and that augurs very well for the economics of our project. We own most of the Andover mafic, ultramafic complex, intrusive complex, which is what hosts the mineralisation. We were able to pick the project up at around about the middle of 2020, which was probably 3 to 6 months ahead of the rush to grab projects. So that put us in a really strong position. Proactively, we were able to acquire the project from the Creasy Group. Simultaneously with that, we actually built up a really good Australian team in place. So we were probably 6 months ahead of the rush to get technical people as well. So both in terms of project acquisition and hiring people, we were ahead of the curve and were able to secure not only good projects but great people as well. We've had 4 really good nickel sulfide discoveries on the Andover project, and we've got a numerous other targets which have yet to be drilled. So with the cash position we've got at the moment, the company's in a very strong position. So Andover's located in the West Pilbara region of Western Australia. So it's a quick flight, 2 hours from Perth to Karratha. It's a half an hour drive along the northwest coastal highway, which goes to the east, and it goes through the northern part of our tenement, which is shown there on the image as the blue rectangle on the right-hand side. In terms of infrastructure and services, you couldn't get a better located project. So within about half an hour's drive of the project, we've got everything we could possibly want in terms of assets and power and services and accommodation, all those sorts of things, and we've got cell phone coverage over the entire project area, so great location. So let's zoom in a little bit to the project itself. Once again, the tenement's outlined there in blue. It's 70 square kilometres, covering a fair proportion of the Andover mafic, ultramafic intrusive complex. Shown there in as those stars are the targets and prospects that we have identified as having good potential for nickel and copper sulfide mineralisation. Interestingly, or importantly, it's in the southwest corner where we've actually had the most success to date. We have the Andover nickel copper deposit down right in the bottom left-hand corner there, which is shown as that red mustache, if you like, and then there's the red stars, which are all the other targets. Most of the ones down in that southern area are contained within what we've called the southern mineralised corridor. This is a particularly geological distinctive rock type. It's called a taxitic gabbro, which is the latest intrusive event into there. So we've had the Andover mafic ultramafic intrusive complexes formed, and the very last event was this intrusion of this taxitic gabbro, and that is what's brought in the nickel and copper sulfide mineralisation. Now, we have virtually no soil cover over this whole area, so we've got really good rock types, really good exposure of the rock types at surface. And wherever we find this taxitic gabbro cutting across the countryside from basically a southwest to a northeast direction, that actually hosts mineralisation. And there's a chunk of it on our booth out there if you want to have a look at it. It's got disseminated nickel and copper sulfides visible in it, which is at surface. And within that, you get these gossans that are outcropping, and the gossans are representative of the massive nickel sulfides that occur at depth. And when we've gone and drilled these outcropping evidences of mineralisation, we have hit nickel sulfide mineralisation. And most times they also coincide with the electromagnetic surveying or electromagnetic anomalies that we've identified. So there's a very strong coincidence in this corridor, 100% success rate, if you like, of outcropping gossan mineralisation in the taxitic gabbros, EM conductors at depth, you drill them, you hit nickel sulfides. It's 100% success rate on that, and there are a number of other targets in there that you can see, but it's got Atrium and Woodbrook and Seaview, etc., which have yet to be drilled but have all the hallmarks of containing more nickel mineralisation in the area. So great observations of our technical team, which has really given us a big step forward. Now, if we zoom in a little bit onto the Andover nickel copper sulfide deposit itself, it's shown there on the right-hand side there, which is once again that red mustache-looking thing. And then on the left-hand side, we've got the drilling that we're currently doing on what we call the Ridgeline prospect. On the Andover deposit itself, it outcrops as gossans. We've drilled underneath it. We've identified nickel sulfide mineralisation starting within 20 metres of surface. It goes to over 550 metres below surface in a continuous shoot of mineralisation. It's over 400 metres long in an east-west direction, and it remains open to the east and to the west, and at depth as well. Within that zone of mineralisation, which is overall is around 15 to 30 metres wide, and it runs around about 1 to 1.5% nickel on average over that envelope, and about 0.5% copper. Within that, there are massive sulfide zones, quite continuous massive sulfide zones, around 4 to 8 metres wide, running 2 to 3% nickel and around about 1% copper. And that is very continuous throughout that area. Now, the drilling is now completed on the Andover deposit itself. All the data has been received. It's gone off to the consultants, and a mineral resource estimate will be released in March of this year. Having a look at the long section that was identified on that previous slide. The long section here, we're looking at surface down to about 600 metres below surface. The Andover nickel deposit itself is on the right-hand side. It's shown there as the orange and yellow zone or colorations there, and the drill holes that we've put into it are shown as ones that have hit mineralisation, the red and the orange and yellow as well. It remains open to the east and west and at depth, as I said, but we've decided to continue or conclude the process of doing the initial resource, and that's happening as I speak. And then we've switched the drilling over onto a bit further to the west, to Ridgeline. We've got quite a number of holes that have gone into that. We're targeting deeply buried EM conductor plates. We've hit some really good mineralisation in there. You can see there's a couple of examples of the drill hits that we've got late last year from there. And the drilling is continuing at Ridgeline and further out to the west of that as well. So there's a lot of work that's being done in this particular area, but we're not neglecting the rest of the project area as well. Now, this is an image that shows the electromagnetic signatures from the airborne survey that we flew. The pink and the orange and the purple colours, they're the highly conductive areas. We've identified numerous conductors that have yet to be tested. We've obviously drilled out the Andover deposit. We've drilled EM conductors at the Ridgeline, the Seaview and the Skyline prospects. All three of those we've intersected significant, substantial nickel sulfide mineralisation in those drill holes as well, so that's 4 from 4 in that area. We've recently gone and drilled 3 other targets, one we've called Pipeline and VC18 East, so that VC18 is that very large football-shaped EM conductor there. We've also drilled at VC41 further to the northeast. Those 3 targets have now been tested with a couple of holes into each of them, and there'll be an announcement regarding the visuals and what we've observed in that drill core coming out in the near future. We also have multiple other conductors that need testing as well, and those drill testings are being carried out or on an ongoing basis going forward. So where to from here for Andover? Well, the mineral resource estimate will be out next month. We're currently drilling on those regional targets at Ridgeline, Pipeline, VC41. We've got all that other regional exploration planned for the rest of this year. We've also implemented, and late last year, we implemented the development studies program, so we have a scoping study underway at the moment. Completed the first batch of metallurgical test work. Middle of last year, we're now into the more advanced metallurgical test work. That's underway. We get excellent recoveries and really clean, high-grade concentrates, very marketable into the sales process. We've completed the geotech study, mining studies in progress at the moment in conjunction with the resource modelling, and all of the other components of the development studies are underway. We anticipate, if all goes well, that we expect to have a scoping study ready for publication sometime in the 3rd quarter of this year. So that's the Andover project. That's the major project and most important focus for us in terms of our expenditures and our manpower. But we've also have the Barton Gold project, which we are ramping up quite significantly now. It's 100% owned by Azure. We picked up the initial exploration licence in the middle of 2020. It was granted in the middle of 2021. It's shown there in blue. That's the large one. There's about 200 square kilometres in there. And then all the other ELs that you see, all these other tenements that you can see are applications at this stage, but there's over 1,000 square kilometres of land that we have got either granted or we have applied for. It's in an area, the Kukini district is actually a red hot area as far as gold exploration and discoveries are going at the moment. You have Genesis off to our west, where there's got over 1.6 million ounces, and Mike Fowler was talking about that yesterday, and that's looking really promising for them. Saturn's coming up with their presentation shortly, and they've got a really great project called Apollo Hill immediately to our east. And then to the southwest, we've got a number of other companies like Nex and Metallicity who are drilling out there and actually hitting some good gold as well. And in addition to that, there's a lot of merger and acquisition activity happening in that district, and looks like I think that Genesis is going to be taking the lead on that when their new managing director starts, Riley Finlayson, next week. So that's going to be a really interesting one. So let's zoom in a little bit on the granted tenement we've got. This is 200 square kilometres of land. In the southwest corner is a place called Daisy Corner. It's a prospect down there. That's the only area on the tenement where there's been significant drilling to test the bedrock. It's all covered with sand cover, and the only drilling was very shallow, and most of it never got down to test bedrock, except in the Daisy Corner where they did a few holes, they got into bedrock, into the basalts, and they hit a little bit of gold mineralisation. That was all in that green rock there that you can see, those mafic rocks. Immediately to our south, we've got Genesis Puzzle North gold discovery, where they've hit a lot of gold mineralisation. If we zoom in on that area now, on the bottom half of that image, you can see those green dots are all the drill holes that Genesis has drilled. There's a lot of work that's gone on. They've hit some cracking good drill intersections in there. Very close to the tenement boundary. The mineralisation continues right up to the boundary. We're currently drilling on that at the moment. We have a RC drill rig drilling out here. Visually, we're hitting things that look similar to what Genesis has described in the literature. So I would say that there's a very good chance that this mineralisation that comes along the puzzle trend up through here continues up into our ground as well. So we are now putting an increased focus on our Daisy Corner and our Barton project. So lots happening with the company at the moment. We're cashed up. We've got 2 cracking good projects. Nickel and copper sulfide mineralisation, that's what everyone's looking for. Gold is going to be more and more important within the great uncertainties of the world going forward. So we're in a really good position as far as our projects go. We've got a good team, got good money, and a lot of news flow that's going to be coming forward in the rest of this year. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you the Azure story.